I'm Judy Nelson. I forgot to put my badge back on after lunch. I left it in my purse. This afternoon we're going to do a couple different things. I thought we would have the representative from Baker and Taylor come in if there's enough of us that are different than this morning. Now let's see, there was two of you. Were you in here this morning? Okay. And then we're going to have Katie Hunt talk about Angel for a little bit. And then we will go over to my library, the elementary library, and I will show you the setup that we have there, and I will show you a couple different books also that we use in our book selection process that you might be familiar with, and then again you might not. I think, why don't you go ahead, Katie?
Oh, sure. Pardon me. Would it be all right if I would, since I've been to the so if you're finding your books found in your library?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'll let you
We'll
know
just
when-
let you know
when we're ready to go.
You don't need to hear it twice. No,
You're already sold, aren't you?
I'm already sold. I was sold before I got here. I have.
You got one. Thank you.
As you can tell from the sheet that I've passed out to you about Adventist Network of General Educational Libraries, that Angel is a processing center. We're located at McKe Library at Southern College, and we serve 121 elementary and secondary schools in Georgia, Cumberland, and Florida conferences. Now, because of this central ordering and central processing, we're able to provide a service to the schools and save the teachers much time, much work, for which most of them are not trained anyway. In fact, in Georgia Cumberland, we have no teacher that is trained to do any kind of library work. None of them are certified librarians at all. And so Angel has really provided a service for them which they're not able to provide themselves in each individual school. What we do is I visit the schools twice a year. Usually on my spring visit, I talk to the teachers. I get ideas of book selection for the next year. The only problem I run into occasionally is if a teacher is moving. Then I have to just rely on what she requests, and some things I know they will automatically want, like the new SDA books, to use for their JMB reading, new science materials. I find out what the curriculum is they'll be teaching on the small schools for the next year, dealing with what countries they'll be studying or what states. In the area of science, what are they going to be covering? This year I've gotten a lot of requests for books on oceanography, all grade levels. That's really going to be a big part of it this year. And so I just combine all of these requests in the spring, and I start ordering during the summer. And the books that I have ready in August, I take around to the schools during the latter part of August and September. This is my fall visit, and at the school, the teachers give me an opportunity to talk to the students. I give them a little book talk about each book. I give them an introduction to it, which means I've had to have read it. I have to know what's in it, so, or I can't tell them about it. And so I have to read. I have to read a lot. And it's a little time consuming as far as that, but I want to make sure that the students get the best books. The students are actually paying for the service. They are paying $15 each. It's the recommended amount according to our Southern Union policy book, and so we want to make sure that they're getting the books that they will read. You know, you've heard this knock-knock joke about read a who? Well, read a book and you'll learn something. And that's what we try to do. We try to get the right book to the right student at the right time. You've heard that in library school. But anyway, the financial plan, each student is charged $15 at registration. And the conference puts in a classroom subsidy, their library material subsidy at $75 a classroom. And based on an enrollment of about 1,500, this pays for the program. If you get less than 1,500, then the conference has to make up a little bit of difference on that, but it doesn't amount to very much. And because we guarantee the books, the schools, the teachers, the students have the privilege of returning a book they do not find satisfactory. And this last year, I did not get any books returned, and so I was quite pleased that my selection was a little better. I was talking to someone out there a while ago. We were opening up, looking at some of the books. To show you how difficult this selection is sometimes, I have a school where the teacher automatically opens the book and looks for the CIP. And if it says -- fiction, he sends it back. Our Adventist books, you know, the majority of them are fiction. But our publishers are wise in leaving off the -- fiction in the CIP. And so it does make selection difficult for some schools. What is really difficult is when the teachers move from school to school, because many times it's the teacher that determines whether a book is going to be kept or not. And the teachers' values vary so. Some are very conservative, some are more liberal, and others. Some like to use their books for reading, and if there happens to be a word that would be objectionable, they'll read the book out loud and just substitute another word. In those situations, they can handle the book just fine. But we cannot have books out there that would be objectionable for the wrong age level. Someone who is reading a book, say a 3rd or 4th grader, and they might run across a word of slang that they are taught is wrong to say, and they will point it out to their teacher. They'll point it out to their parents. Whereas if a 7th or 8th grader read the same book, they'd just laugh and go on, because they're at a level where their mind is mature enough they could just overlook some things. But I have to be careful in what I buy because of that. And it does make my job a little more challenging. Okay, you have any questions? This is what you call an instant library. The books are cataloged. The equipment is put in. We use a printer to print the spine patch and the label for the card and pocket. The students do all that work. Of course, we use the printer ourselves, but they do all the assembling of the book so it's ready to be delivered to the library. And so if it wasn't for the student labor, we could not do this at all for the amount of money that we put into it, because the college, we particularly like work study students because we end up paying 70 cents, and then the rest of it is made up, I think, by the government work study program, that is. And so we like those kind of students. But the students have really taken a big job. This last year we cataloged 60,000 books for the Florida conference. We took all of their books from them last spring, the end of school, and in hopes that we would have the majority done by the time school started. That was our plans. And so we brought them all up. Every book had to be marked with the code of the school. We all have a 3-digit code, 3-letter code for each school, sort of abbreviation. Like Greater Miami Academy is GMA, you know. Some things would make sense the way we abbreviate it. And We had to mark every book. We put them all in alphabetical order by title. You're talking about 70,000 books. We did not realize they had that many. And so we started running them through the computer. We were ready to start by the middle of June. It took us about 5 weeks just to get the books up there and marked and alphabetized. And the first 2 weeks, we started out with a bang. We did, let me think. We did 6,000 books in the first 2 weeks because we started out with the Spirit of Prophecy books. And everybody had, there were 69 copies of Acts of the Apostles. They had to have the right date together. We had to keep all the dates together and all this because you had to make sure it was cataloged correctly. And so those went through pretty quickly. And then we started with the letter G. And the reason we started with letter G because G through Z was in a room, the storage room down in the basement of the library, and it did not have as good air circulation, and so we wanted to get those books out first. A through F was filed in a room that had very good air conditioning, heating, whatever. So we started with G. We finished Z in it was near the end of May. And so since then we're in the letter C, and we have D, E, and F to go. And we'll be through by the 1st of August. So all of the Florida schools will be completely cataloged. This involves any new gift books that they receive that come in that need to be cataloged. We take those and catalog for them at no charge. This backlog that we've just done was at no charge to the schools. We saved the salary of our resource person in Florida, and we used that money and a little matching funds from the Florida conference to do their cataloging for them. So they'll have a library time school starts that will be completely usable for them, along with the card catalog. Okay, any of you have a question?
Earlier you said that you are parents. Wouldn't it be easier that you should just train them?
Well, I have trained a few. Let me tell you what happened at one school. I come up with these horror stories all the time. I went through all the trouble of talking to the teachers. I show them which is the shelf list, which is their regular cards. See, every card, let me just draw you a little diagram here. It's easier. The card here, not square, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Anyway, we use the Dewey cataloging course, which will be up here in your main entry, whatever. But down at the card, there's this code. I'll use the code for OJA, which is TBFD. Then after that goes the link DC, or it may say TBFD and then SL. Your SL is your shelf list card. The DC stands for dictionary catalog. And so if they ever get mixed up, you could easily separate them. Your shelf list is not necessarily for the students to use. Some may want to use it, and they could see, well, how many books you have in the 600 areas, and they could just go that way, or just look on the shelf. But the shelf list then is really more for inventory control and just to keep track of your books. The dictionary catalog is your author, title, and subject card, and they're all interfiled. Well, this teacher went through there, and he was cleaning house, you might say, and he decided, well, I see a lot of duplicate cards here. He threw away the entire shelf list. He thought, well, why do I need this? I've got the same card in the other one. I almost wrung his neck. I knew the man. I went to school with him. And I don't know why in the world he did it. He should have known better. And so I try to be careful when I talk to the teachers. He had no library training, you know. He just didn't realize what he had done. But fortunately, we keep a duplicate shelf list at our library there. So I have a shelf list for every school, and all we had to do was duplicate it on the photocopy machine. I did not reorder new cards. So they are, since they were just for inventory, there's the photocopied shelf list in there, along with the ones that they've received since then. By the way, he did leave teaching too. It's not that I wrung his neck, that wasn't the reason. And so when I get there to these schools though, of course the teachers usually are involved in their classes. Most of our schools in Georgia Cumberland are one teacher schools. And so they don't have a lot of free time. Some of them have aides, some do not. Even at one of the larger schools in Atlanta, the Atlanta Cascade, they did have a volunteer librarian who would come in. Actually, it wasn't quite volunteer because she got some tuition credit for her children's tuition. And she would work with doing the filing. But then at a larger school in Atlanta, the Becker School over on the Decatur side, they had no librarian at all. They didn't even have a parent that would be willing to do it. So it usually takes me about 3 hours at that school just to file cards because it's a larger school. And no one seems interested enough to want to learn. I think I've spoiled them a little bit because they just expect me to do it now, which is probably wrong. And I admit that. It does take a little time. But then you want to free them for as much of their teaching as you can. And since that's what they really are there for. And so they could use the time that they would file, they could use it to teach library skills. So I look at it that way, that I'm really doing the school a service. And plus I know they're in the right place. But then other schools, I have students who are willing to learn. 7th and 8th graders, that's part of their, they feel like that's part of their English. So one teacher told me that's, you know, they're learning their alphabet in a very good way. And so, and usually what happens when I have a lot of student help, they'll just file on top of the rod, and then I'll go behind them and check it and drop it. And that way it's a safety check. But I just wish a few more were willing to learn to do that. But as long as they're using the library in any way, what little bit I can do to help them, I certainly will try to do that.
Do you send the shelf separate from the other kind?
Yes, they are separate. We always have the DC cards in front, and in the back with a rubber band around are the shelf list cards. So they really shouldn't get them mixed up. It's just the ones who are really trying to clean the house that cause some problems sometimes. So they are separate. And then I did have another school, a man teacher who I guess he just didn't understand. I never have quite figured out what he has done. I had to take the complete catalog back with me to straighten it out, and then I just shipped it back to them. So they were without it for a short time. But it was just a complete, total disaster, and it was quite a large collection of books. And he had just interfiled everything. So we just have to flip through the cards and pick out the SLs to separate them. And it's just, sometimes you just get uneducated people in there. Although they have an education, they're not educated in library skills to handle that. As a horror story. We do have a few horror stories to tell, but on the whole it has gone quite well, and it's been very well received in Georgia Cumberland. In Florida it's a little bit slower, but we're working on them now that their libraries are going to be completely organized. I believe this year will be very smooth sailing for them. It's very important to have the backing of your educational superintendent and the staff there, because they can really make or break a program. It's very important to have that. Yes?
Are you in a position to find out about libraries that are closing? Do they ever call you, a school's closing or something, and they have things that...
Okay, I have 3 schools that are closing this year in Georgia Cumberland. The enrollment has just dropped, so there's no children in the church, and they don't know what to do, and so they're going to go ahead and close. There was one school that closed several years ago. It's the Lookout Mountain Church, and that is where Desmond Doss is, and that church will close as soon as the older people in the church die. There's just nobody there, and so they are selling their library to another school that the teacher used to teach there, and so I think they were selling them for 50 cents a book or something, and of course they have the card catalog that goes with it, and the books will just not be wasted. But as a whole, most of the schools that stay on it and that go on it remain open. A few close down, but what they're going to do with the collection, we just don't know, because actually the books belong to the school. They don't belong to us at all. Since the students buy it, they are stamped with the school ownership stamp. That happens after they get to the school. We don't do that. And so it's just up to the school board or the church board just what will happen to the books. In most cases, it's a small library anyway.
I'm wondering about catalog.
Of those small schools that are closing had something very temporary. I do have, in Georgia Cumberland particularly, a lot of them just don't have any money. And the cards come in boxes from OCLC when we get them. And they don't have a rod through there, but they have the hole for the rod. And so what they'll do is they'll just rig up a string through the hole through the outside of the boxes so they can at least use them, although they're not in an attractive cabinet. And so in these schools that have closed, they have not really had a nice catalog. We don't mind encouraging them to put a string through or a coat hanger through, because they can at least the students have access to them. We try not to buy the cabinets using the angel money, because we feel the students deserve books instead of a cabinet. Now, in the situation of encyclopedias, I had some interesting things about this to happen. Some schools just are on very close budgets, and this last year we had several people request for a new encyclopedia. You should have one at least every 5 years, and they were coming up for be reevaluated, and they were desperate. And so I spread the cost of that over 2 years, and so it wouldn't take every bit of their funds. I don't like to use angel funds for encyclopedia, because I feel the school can raise the money some way through home and school or something to purchase this. It is a major purchase, and so we've spread it over 2 years. Occasionally we have a school that has an active home and school, and they will send me an extra $1,500 to use for purchase of books or encyclopedias or something. This has happened several times a year, and we encourage that too. And it's more for their advantage if they can have an active home and school. But we really recommend that the angel money be used for library books, reading books. We also do not handle any magazine subscriptions. All of that is done through the schools. They have, in Florida's case, they charge $20 per student, and the school keeps 5 to use for the magazines. Any other question? I saw Baker and Taylor was almost ready to come in. If any of you would like to see a copy of our budgets, I have some here if you would like to see them. Michelle is a representative from Baker and Taylor, and she will show you some ways or discuss some ways Baker and Taylor has for selecting books or
I'm the sales representative from Michigan. Baker and Taylor has 4 distribution points that we service, so if you're not in the Midwest Division, you're probably in Commerce, Georgia, or Somerville, New Jersey, or Reno, Nevada. In all, we probably house close to 10 million books, probably 200,000 to 300,000 titles across the country. We service such a large range of libraries that really you can come to Baker and Taylor and get any book that you need from us that's in print. We do have certain services that we provide that are specially tuned into the special needs of libraries in the school markets. Your concerns for budgets are greater. You have fewer funds traditionally. Of course, everybody in Michigan, I don't know about your states, have fewer funds. In any case, we do some special things for schools that I think would be very valuable for you. First of all, we do some budget control services. If you order from Baker and Taylor, you can get a quote on anything that you get from us, giving us, for instance, a list of titles you'd like us to quote on, request slips, things that have come out of selection committees, and so forth. Don't write up anything special. Just send us the titles. We'll send you back a quote, title for title, on what that particular book is going to cost you. And we hold it for 60 days. It's a typing service for you. You line out any ones you do want, or that you don't want. And then you can attach a do not exceed figure. Let's say you're not certain what fulfillment we're going to have. We give you what we can in the first shipment, and then subsequent shipments will have what's left over within a particular period of time. But when you're figuring your budget, you don't always know what the price of the book is going to be. You don't always know what the discount is going to be, and you don't want to have to sit there and figure dollars and cents. So all you need to do is send back this list with, say, do not exceed $200. We will fill your list until we reach that $200 level and cancel the balance. That's just one of the ways that we help out with the schools. We also have a number of electronic ordering devices that saves on time. We have, for instance, what we call a beta phone, which is on the bottom level of the pricing structure, and as you go up with complications, you also go up with prices. But beta phone basically is very simple. All you need to do is sit with your selection committee, your resources, request slips, and key and ISBN numbers. Building your order, it will store up to 500 ISBNs. Then what you do is transmit it electronically over a telephone. It's a toll-free transmission, and in about 2 minutes, Baker and Taylor has your order. Then what we do is send you back a confirmation report showing you all the titles that are on order with Baker and Taylor. If you need a 3x5 form to go in an on-order file, we also provide that for you. These are some of the services that we do. We also catalog. You can get kits or fully processed books from Baker and Taylor. You can have a shelf-ready book for 89 cents from Baker and Taylor. You can set the specifications for whatever particular brand of cataloging that you do, and we will individualize by school for you. If you require just cards and pockets, then we also provide those at a lower price, 69 cents would get you a pocket with all of the cards and so forth in it, fine label, etc. In addition to cataloging, we have some automatic shipment plans. What they allow you to do is preview the books before you purchase them. We call it Juvenile Advance Plan. And you can select certain publishers, and you will receive everything from that publisher that is new. Keep the ones you want, return the ones you don't. And so it gives you some hands-on with the books. Let's see. We have a very fine customer service department that helps you in any way that you can. Our discounts are generally based on volume. The more you buy from us, the higher your discounts. Other things are taken into consideration as well as buying volume, but that's generally how we set our pricing. We have contracts, for instance, within school systems where even though each one is autonomous in their ordering, we consider them a whole package, and therefore their buying power is much stronger. And we work out all of these kinds of pricings at the individual division. Kind of an overview, quick overview of Baker and Taylor. But in addition to what we provide, we also have free of charge our catalogs that we put out. Now they are selection tools, they're not review sources. We don't pretend to tell you if it's a good book or if it's a bad book. That's up to you to decide. But we do cite new titles that are coming out, and we also tell you whether or not it's been reviewed and what source has reviewed it. Some of the catalogs we provide that are especially helpful for schools, the School Selection Guide, which is put out yearly by a panel of educational people from across the country. And it is arranged by subject, and it will show you some of the titles that are available, along with an annotation. We have budget books with a remainder list. These are titles that you can purchase from us at a or not at a discount, but they're lower than they originally were published. You can get these cataloged as well. Focus on Juvenile comes out once a year, and it kind of summarizes what came out new that year. Again, with an annotation and a review source. We have two new catalogs, Inspirations, which is our first list of this nature, devotional type material, and it is new for us. We're just expanding our list right now, so we're interested in all the feedback to see whether or not this is something that we can produce successfully. And that's available. And finally, audio. We're getting into cassettes this year. Things like language tapes, books on cassette, management tapes, self-improvement, travel, that kind of thing. And those are generally discounted as well. So I would urge you to come to the little table back there. There's all of these materials that are free to take for you. If you have any additional questions, I'd be pleased to answer them. Yes?
Did you say that you handle all books that are in print, or just some
All books that are in print. We can't, there's certain publishers that we do not deal with, and I can get you a list of the pubs we don't supply. There's about 40 of them, not too many. Anything else, if it's in print, we can get for you. Now, if it's distributed, foreign publications, if it's distributed in the United States, we handle it. If it is not, then we don't. Any others? Okay. Thank you. Whoops.
I just want to encourage you to take a look at everything out there in the library, and if you haven't done so, you may want to do that in our spare time. One book that I want to make sure that you know about, if you're selecting, and probably most of you do, it's called Gateway to Happy Reading. This is put out by the General Conference, and it lists the books that should be in our library, or some of them that should be. This is the 1982 edition. I would suppose that they will be coming out with a recent one here in another couple years, where they come out every two.
I haven't heard of a newer edition in that.
Okay, but it does list it in here by Dewey Decimals, and it really gives a good outline. And there's a lot of other information, there's philosophy in it and everything. So this is a very excellent book for book selection. Another one is called Children's Catalog, if you have any questions about this. It's put out by H.W. Wilson. I couldn't find my copy in my library right at the moment. I'm sure I've got one over there, so Mrs. Weaker let me use it. Her high school one, it's similar to this, and they're about $70. It's quite expensive. If you can't afford one in your little library, then go down to a public library. I'm sure that they would have one that you could use and write down the books and stuff. Okay? Are there any other questions? If not, at this time, we'll go ahead and go over, and maybe you can think of questions while you're at my library. I think that will be the best way to do it.